All right, hello, beautiful souls. We are live and we are here to talk about this Mars-Uranus conjunction. It's kind of a big deal. So, we're going to be talking about what it means for each sign of the zodiac. You can watch your sun, moon, and rising for this, and we will be pulling up the chart and we will be taking a look at it. Although I have a really, really big, exciting announcement to make first, and that is that I have a new course available, and it is on the ninth house and the spiritual path. So if you want explanations from me about what your astrology chart means about your spiritual path, then you need to check this course out. If you're joining live, there's a link in the chat, and if you are watching the replay, there is a link in the description. So check that out, make sure you grab it, and today we're going to get into this Mars-Uranus conjunction. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means, when it is, and then we will get into the all signs. So we'll start from Aries and then we'll go through to Pisces. How is everyone doing with the astrology right now? We just had a new moon. How is everybody feeling? Let us know in the comments how you're doing. Yeah, okay. So first of all, Mars, Uranus, what does it mean? Mars and Uranus together are quite a volatile combination because Uranus is unpredictable and Mars really adds heat and speeds up and stimulates the unpredictability of Uranus. And then how Uranus acts on Mars is that it kind of makes it more sudden. So like sometimes people with Mars-Uranus in their natal chart, like the conjunction or the opposition or the square especially, will be the kind of people that their anger sort of builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it's released, So they might usually it's not like they have a short fuse. It's actually more like that. This happens with a lot of Uranus aspect to any planet is that Uranus will make the experience of that thing be more erratic. It'll make it be more unstable and unpredictable, and like you never know. So someone with Mars-Uranus isn't going to necessarily have a temper all the time. You just won't know when they're going to get pissed off. And when they do, it's like whoosh, it's like a stick of dynamite went off. Okay, so more about Mars-Uranus is, when we think about the cycles in astrology, it takes Mars a little over 2 years to make a cycle around the zodiac. So the Mars-Uranus cycle is not exactly 2 years, but roughly going to happen every couple years. So based on the fact that this conjunction happens every couple years, we know that must mean that it can't be a life-changing thing. And so this is something people kind of ask me. They're like, why didn't anything happen during this big conjunction everyone was talking about? Or why didn't anything happen when Jupiter and Uranus met in my chart? There's a few reasons why sometimes these conjunctions don't seem to do much in your chart. One of the reasons is that, there's something on my screen. Okay. One of the reasons it doesn't seem to do much is that the planets you're talking about don't rule important things in your chart. Maybe they're in charge of houses that are smaller or not as big of a deal. So that's one. And two is that there's other planets in your chart that are getting more heavily aspected. So I'll do my best to let you guys know who is going to be most affected. And, let's just start with some of the basics here with this Mars-Uranus conjunction. It's happening on July 15th, 2024, and it's happening at 26 degrees of Taurus. So immediately we know this is going to hit you harder if you have a personal planet at or near 26 degrees of the fixed signs of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius. Now, if you have something at near 26 degrees of the other earth signs, so that's going to be Virgo or Capricorn, well, then you're going to get the trine. So there might be a sudden change in your life, but it'll probably be easier to integrate. So let's just say the range of degrees for this roughly is anything after 20 degrees. So anything after 20 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Leo. And that's, again, the personal planets are going to feel it more. So that's going to be your sun, moon, rising, Mercury, Venus, or Mars. Technically, your rising isn't a personal planet, but it is one of the points that is going to make it feel more strong to you. Now, just because it's a trine, if you have something at the earth signs, that doesn't always mean good. Okay, trines don't always mean good. I know you guys think that, but because it's Mars, when it's Mars and Saturn, trines don't always mean good. Sometimes it allows that planet to do what it wants in a way that is more challenging. So that's how that works. So like I said, if you have, like, especially if you've got your sun, moon, or rising after 20 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius, those people I would say would probably feel it the absolute most. Other people who are going to feel this conjunction strong are going to be our Aries, sun, moon, and rising, because Mars rules Aries. And it's also going to be our Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising, because Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. I like to use the traditional rulers more, but I'm still going to give you guys all the information when I can. Okay, so I want to check in on the comments, and then we're going to go to the forecast for breaking it down for each sign of the zodiac. Okay, so we have Ruby saying, terrified to travel. You're worried about this conjunction in your chart. You want to ghost your cousin's wedding? I don't know. I don't know about that. Black's Parson says, so far so good with the energies. Awesome. Alin is heavy and emotional with moments of okayness. Is it Alan? Sorry, I can't see very well on here. And then Giza, is that right? I'm just gonna mess up your names and it'll be a thing. This will be conjuncting your natal Chiron in the third house. Ooh, yeah, I didn't mention Chiron. If you have Chiron at that degree of Taurus, that would be, how you feel with a Chiron aspect is going to depend a lot on how much work you've done on the wound, right? So for some people, it's just going to bring some awareness. For others, it might really stimulate that feeling. So if you don't know what your Chiron means, this would be a time to kind of track how you feel about, especially for Giza. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it. It's in the third house. I would think about how you feel when you're communicating and expressing yourself and that kind of stuff. Mary Cole is saying this Mars-Uranus conjunction is right on my son's moon in his 5th. Any advice? I don't know how old he is, but just, make sure he's okay, right? Because, what could happen? Something that's shocking to him on an emotional level. So just, make sure he's okay. Oh, it's on your Chiron. Yeah, I'm not sure how to advise you other than just bring awareness to how he's getting his needs met. And make sure you're okay, and make sure that, if you need a babysitter or something, there's someone else who can help you. I don't know how old he is, so if that doesn't apply, then ignore it. Okay, so Mars and Uranus conjuncting your natal 5th in Virgo. Okay. Interesting. North Node at 29 Taurus, kind of weird. Don't worry about planets hitting your North Node. I would not worry about that at all. And even a little teeny bit. No. He's 9. Okay, yeah. So I would just try to make sure his needs are met. Because, like, if something negative happens to the moon, that could be because you are sick or because you are not getting the nurturing you normally do, or something makes you not feel cared about or something. Like, make sure he's not getting bullied at school or something. Yeah, okay, so another thing that something reminded me of this too, as far as this upcoming Mars-Uranus conjunction, is one more thing that will make this conjunction stronger is going to be what house it's in. So, and I use whole sign for this part, but you want to see, is the conjunction in your fourth, first, seventh, or 10th house? If yes, it will probably be stronger for you. If it's on a personal planet, definitely going to be stronger for you. And if it's in your second house, fifth house, eighth house, or 11th house, it's going to be medium. And if it's in your third house, sixth house, ninth house, or 12th house, it's probably going to be more weak. And you might not even notice it unless you think about it, right? Because those houses, the third, sixth, ninth, and 12th are cadent. And so when planets are in those houses, they're not as powerful. To the point where when astrologers choose to do things on certain events, they put the bad planets in the ninth or the eighth house where they're hidden away, right? Or like the sixth house, or, they put them in those houses where they don't have as much power. So because they don't have as much power there, so they can do less bad. So when we're considering Mars as being a malefic, which it is, and that is how we practice astrology here, we don't do the whole toxic positivity every week as the new portal crap. I mean, I know if you just want a mental uplift, maybe this isn't always going to be the right channel, but if you want to know what's really going to happen or what's really going on, this is the right channel for you. Okay. So who else do we have here to say hello to? Annie Mars-Uranus, trine Saturn in Capricorn, fourth house. Misbehaving. Hello, glad you're here. Eva Maria, your friend has that in the eighth house. Yeah, so those are actually fine, eighth and 12th, then you'll probably both be okay. Yeah, so let's go ahead. I think now would be a good time to start on going through the signs. And for anyone who's just jumping on, I have a new course available on your spiritual path in the ninth house. So you can click the link at the top. I pinned the link to that course if you want to jump in. And there will also be a link after the video. I'm going to add it in there in the description. So if you're watching after the fact, you can check it out there too. Okay, so we're going to go to the chart. Let's get it all set up here how we want it. I think that's good. Yeah. Okay. So we are looking at the chart. This is the transit I technically have this on July 14th at 11:30 p.m. And we're starting with Aries, which reminds me to get my timer up. And we're going to go through from Aries to Pisces. Okay. So starting now. All right, so for Aries, sun, moon, and rising. This is in your second house of money. So what can happen when Mars and Uranus are there in your second house of money? First of all, this is a new beginning of a Mars-Uranus cycle, right? That is related to your finances. Could there be a sudden change to your money? Sure. Could it be good or bad? Yep. Could it be something good that's like overwhelming because you don't know what to do with it? Yeah. It could literally be like you just got more money, or you just sold something, or you just make a huge investment in something. But definitely, this is going to affect for Aries their money or their stuff. You might sell something. But having Uranus there makes it feel like you're going to sell something you didn't know you were going to sell. Or or like you have a house on the market forever and you don't even think about it anymore. It's been taken forever and finally it sells. Or you just get a wild hair and just decide to sell all your stuff and move to another country. Or you had a storage unit and you open it up and everything's damp and it's ruined. Or so it can go either way. You know, this can be positive or negative. It's probably going to have to do with your physical things or your money. Now, this could also be, you know, when I think of Uranus in the second house, it reminds me of like a direct deposit, you know, one sudden, usually bigger direct deposit. So you have to think about what's happening in your financial life. Are you trying to pay your taxes that you're behind on? Well, maybe then this is going to be you doing that. Oh my God, my sneezes are the loudest in the whole universe. Okay, so maybe you're paying a direct deposit. Maybe you are getting a tax refund. Maybe you're getting maybe you sign a big client or you make a deal with someone or something. And, you know, think about what's happening in your life that would make sense based on a sudden change to your finances, because that really is what it means. Now let's consider that Aries rules you. And so Mars is you in the chart, and then Scorpio is on your 8th house of other people's money. Sometimes when the 8th house ruler is in the second, this is actually you. I feel like I want to draw today on the chart. Let's draw on it. I have to find my little tool here. Yeah, let's do that, because that's going to be fun. Gesundheit, thank you. Okay, so we have your 8th house ruler here in the second house, which means other people's money can become your money. Okay, so that's the most positive. Maybe some Aries rising on the 14th or 15th, take out a loan, they borrow some money. Maybe if you're an Aries who has a partner who is supporting you, this would make sense that your partner is gonna give you some money on that day. Now, if you're in a divorce, maybe this would be the day you get the money from the divorce. It's more likely this is other people's money coming to you, unless you are involved in some messed up tax shit, or like you owe interest on some, you know, stock, like you lost a bunch of money in stock, or you have a bunch of money in stocks that could be volatile or something like that. Unless you have some kind of risky investment that would make sense to have to owe, it's more likely that this is money coming to you, because the 8th ruler in the second literally means other people's money comes to you. But it might not be a life-changing thing for Aries here. This could be like your friend who owes you money gives you some. It could be something just like that. So let me think of other things that might be going on that are interesting here. Well, Uranus also rules your 11th house of friends. So it's possible that friends could be contributing to helping you financially. That's not going to be everyone, but especially if you're like in need or something, maybe you have to borrow money from one of your friends for some reason. That could be happening too here as well. Either way, Mars going through the second this whole time is speeding up your finances. So the only thing to watch out for is making sure that you are not spending all your money, because that is something that you can definitely do on accident when Mars is going through that second house. All right, I think that's going to be good for Aries. I know it's really simply a money transit here. Sometimes it just is like that. So let's go on now to our next sign, which is going to be Taurus. Let's delete that and go to Taurus. There we go. Let's do this. For Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, you guys have your this Mars-Uranus conjunction is in your first house, therefore it's more likely going to strongly affect you. Now, to know how strong it's going to affect you, if your rising sign is like 20 degrees or after in Taurus, it's going to affect you a lot more, because this Mars-Uranus conjunction, that means it's on your ascendant. That's going to be a very powerful conjunction for you. And what is it going to involve? Well, we have Aries rules your 12th house of self-sabotage, things you don't see, psychology. And then Aries also, Scorpio rules your 7th house of relationships. If you are a Taurus who wants to find love, this would be a good, maybe you just meet someone all of a sudden. It's possible because your 7th house ruler is affecting your first house, which means relationships might cause a change. This could be a relationship change, but it may not be, right? Because Uranus and Mars are going to go make a connection every couple of years. So I wouldn't look at it as a relationship ending kind of a thing for Tauruses. I would look at it more as a new beginning in relationships, and a new beginning related to your 12th house of self-sabotage, what you don't see about yourself. So think about the kind of things a person might go to therapy for. Just think about those kind of things. That's what's in the 12th house. So what are we going to think a new cycle related to that might be? Well, maybe you're facing some fears. Maybe you have some new tools in your spiritual or psychological toolkit that help you get through facing some fears. Maybe you suddenly become aware of how a relationship has been contributing to a self-sabotaging pattern. Okay, so there could be some psychological insights or one very all of a sudden psychological insight happening here. But I really do think sometimes when Uranus is with your relationship planet, it's just like a change in your relationship. So like if you're single and you're looking for love, you could find it. If you are in a relationship that you've been having some problems, this might be a time where you or the other person are like, I've hit my limit. This is it. But it may not be that. It could just be a new cycle in relationship. And what's it going to have to do with? It's going to have to do with you. It's going to have to do with yourself. Whoops. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this and circle it, because the first house is the house of not just yourself, but your life direction and your major decisions. So it's the most likely thing here for Taurus is that a relationship or another person is going to affect a major life decision, and it might be all of a sudden. And we don't know what it's going to be because it's something you didn't see coming. For Taurus, more than some of the other signs, I would say that it's probably going to be something you really didn't see coming, because the 12th house tends to be things we don't see coming, and then the Uranus tends to be things that are just unexpected. So I would say for Taurus, it adds an element of unexpectedness to whatever's going on. But again, remember, this is a new cycle in love. So if you need to make changes to your relationships, do it, do it. If you realize some things about relationship, this might be a time where you make a change to your own self as a result of seeing something that you realize, like a pattern that you realize is coming up that you don't like. So maybe you realize, I don't know. Let's say you always are in a relationship with people who insult you. Let's just say that. Maybe now is the moment you realize what you can do to not have that happen. Maybe you meet someone who tells you something and they're like, no one ever does that to me because I always do this, this, and this. And then you see a new perspective where you're like, oh, I never do that, right? So it could be some kind of illumination here. a thing that you become aware of how to more consciously create the patterns in relationships rather than just be on the receiving end of them. So I think that's a good note to end it with. Don't be scared. Don't be scared if there's something you don't see coming, because all you have to do is bring your conscious awareness to that for it to be not so scary. Okay, so going on now to the next sign, which is going to be our Geminis. Okay, so for Gemini, let's see here. Sun, Moon, and Rising. We have the Mars-Uranus conjunction in your 12th house. This is not where I would want this one to be. I did say it can be less powerful here. Now, if you don't have 12th house planets, this is probably going to be fine. If you have a personal planet at 26 degrees of Taurus in your 12th house, there's probably going to be some kind of thing you didn't see coming. And that's true for everyone with the Mars-Uranus conjunction. But the thing is that it might just be a phone call from someone that you're like, oh, I didn't see that happening. So it doesn't always have to be some crazy, scary, hyped up, huge thing. Okay, so what can we see for Geminis? Well, first of all, let's consider what Mars rules in your chart. Mars is going to rule Aries, which is the 11th house, and it's also ruling Scorpio, which is the 6th house. And so those topics are going to be stimulated or changed, right? Because Uranus is like an on-off switch, and it's like something in your work life or your social life gets activated. So this can be a positive activation where maybe you're like, I need to disconnect with this certain friend, and there's a disconnection. Maybe there's a disconnection from a job in the 6th house. Now, that's not going to be everyone, but it's a possibility. Sometimes 6th house stuff is like where you work and things like that, or your schedule or your routine. Maybe there's a sudden change to your routine that you didn't see coming. Maybe you get you go to the doctor and they're like, you can't eat this food anymore. You know what I mean? So it can be a sudden change to your routine like that. It can be you have a baby and now you have to wake up every 2 hours, right? So sudden changes to your routine don't always have to be bad. Just because Uranus is sudden doesn't mean that, hold on. Okay. So just because something is sudden doesn't have to make it bad. So Uranus, Mars, and the 12th house could also activate your desire to uncover the psychological root cause of patterns or dynamics with your friend groups or with the work that you do or with your daily habits and routines and stuff. So I mean, I don't know why this is my example, but it is. I just go with what comes up in my head. But you're like not brushing your teeth. So then you're like, why do I not brush my teeth? What is the root cause of this? Obviously, I know most of you are brushing your teeth, so that's not a big deal. Hold on. Okay, so back to what we're doing, which is Taurus. I'm going to give you guys an extra minute because I was a little distracted. All right. Back to Taurus. You guys have... that 11th ruler in the 12th could also be your experience with friends becomes more private in some way. So almost like maybe you have friends who you do 12th house stuff with. That could be if you are a Gemini rising. Oh, I just kept calling you guys Taurus. Sorry. If you're a Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising who is in recovery from like a 12-step program or something like that, or you do some real deep spiritual shit, this could be you meeting your friends in for trance. Or like, if you're in recovery, maybe you leave a group, you get a new home group or something. Or you stop associating with a certain group of people because you have a sudden awareness that they're not the right people. Or there could also be, this could be a connection, but in the 12th house, it reads more of a ending or a change that ends something. Something else could also begin, especially with Jupiter in that first house, giving, options and opportunities and possibilities. So some of you might be taking on a new adventure or doing something new at this time that causes that to make sense. Like maybe someone's going to college and then they have new friends now. They are releasing their old friends, but it feels like on the 14th or the 15th, this is the time where the release part of the cycle is more strong. Another thing happening here for Geminis is it's a beginning of a new cycle, of a Mars-Uranus cycle. And the conjunction is the beginning. Sometimes you don't know what that is until after the fact. So just keep that in mind, that you might start a new health program. You might start a new routine where you're waking up at a different time. You might start a new something else that has to do with like a new job or end a job or something that, would have to do with your work schedule. Your schedule might change, or again, you might meet a new person. Like, for example, this is just one example. Maybe you meet someone around the 15th and then they invite you to a party, and then that becomes a new friend group. But that action of it becoming a new friend group may not happen on the 15th. So be open to new possibilities related to friends, groups you're associating with, and work, jobs, or routines. Okay, so that's what we have for Geminis. Sorry I called you guys Taurus so many times. We're going to move on to the next sign, which is going to be our Cancers. All right, so we are going to go to Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. For you guys, the Mars-Uranus conjunction is happening in your 11th house of friends, groups, hopes, and dreams. So for some Cancers, there can be a connection or disconnection from a group of people, and this could be something you expect or don't expect. Maybe it's like a natural thing where, it's the end of high school, or it's the end of college, or it's the end of a job, and you already knew that was coming, and this is when the disconnection from the people happens. This could also be an unexpected change to the groups you associate with. Maybe you go to a new event and you're like, oh, I love this. And this is the new beginning of you continuing to go. It can go either way with that. But let's consider which houses in your chart Mars rules for more info. We have the 10th house of work, and we have the 5th house of creativity. So the 5th house is the fun house. So when we have planets in the fun house that go to our 11th house, this is going to tend more toward a positive thing, most likely, because the 5th house is things that are good and fun and enjoyable and pleasure. So this kind of goes back to the idea, this is an arrow, by the way. It goes back to the idea that you could meet new people and it's fun, right? You could but it adds creativity to the mix. So it's like you could start singing in groups, or you could start doing something creative in a group setting. Because Mars also rules your 10th house, this could be the beginning of a new cycle of starting something that relates to coworkers, especially if the work that you do is now possibly turning into something that might be a little bit more on the, what would you call it? More on the side of like something you do in a group. Like maybe for your job now you start leading the office weekly meeting, or something that puts you in front of more people. It can be that. It can be a new cycle where that's the beginning of this new cycle. Uranus can make a change to your 5th house of creativity or you could be inspired to create. And if you have your own business, then maybe you're launching something to an audience, or maybe you're, putting something out there to more people, because that's really strong here. It could just be that office, like the people who, think about the groups of people you're normally around. It might be people at your office. It might be other events you go to throughout the week, depending on what you do. There might just be some chaos or some kind of sudden emergency, right, that happens in your job or in your work, or like like, I don't know, like the internet goes down or one day and it creates chaos, right? It could be something a little bit smaller, not as life-changing. But either way, regardless of what happens on July 15th, we're going to see a new cycle beginning with your creativity, your children, and your role in life. So like your work usually is that 10th house, but sometimes it's like your role as a parent or your role that's non-work related. So let me think of what else I can see for Cancers here. Let me think. I think that's it. I think that's it. It's changes or disconnections to what is fun for you, what's pleasurable, and the possibility of something you enjoy becoming a more public thing, bringing a creative hobby, bringing a joyful pleasure into a group. For some Cancers, if you are single, this might be a good time to actually be out, because of the sense that it's your 5th house, and that's like the house of romance and dating. And it's like Uranus, Mars could make it actually like a very exciting, fast-paced, exhilarating date, right? It has that sort of chase, energy of the chase going on. With the 5th house being involved. So yeah, that's what I have for Cancers. You guys always let me know if it resonates. And we're going to move on to the next sign, which is going to be our Leos. Okay. So for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you guys have the Mars-Uranus conjunction happening in your 10th house of work. And so this is going to be possibly a change to your role in life, but it may not be a huge change. So I imagine things like stay-at-home moms whose kids are now in preschool or kindergarten. And so now you actually have a different thing you're supposed to do, right? Like you're no longer the caretaker during those hours, at least. Or something changes in your expectation at work for what you have to do. It can speed up right now. When Mars is in the 10th, sometimes your work will speed up, or your desire to, your reputation will become more important, and you'll be doing more things that affect your reputation. And then the other houses involved here is the 9th house. Let's redo that. Let's just redo that. The 9th house of, travel, your spiritual path, learning, education. So sometimes 9th ruler in the 10th is a moment where it's like the education that you've had contributes to a new beginning in career. Or it can also be travel influences your role in life, or the things you've learned influence your role in life. Something you've done to prepare for your role in life is now ready to at least start happening. And then we also have Scorpio. So Mars rules Scorpio, which means your 4th house ruler is also in the 10th house, which means there might just be a change to your family right now. There could be a change to the role of one of your parents. There could be a change to the role of something else in your family, or you could move, or there could be a change to your actual family unit, like moving, or it's possible for some Leos. It might be like having a new person come move in like having a partner move in or having a roommate move out, or, some kind of change like that. It could be just something kind of more subtle. It could be that your dad now is retired or your mom is retired, and maybe that doesn't affect your life that much, but maybe it does because they're in the 10th house. Either way, there can be also a new cycle happening in your 9th house of your spiritual life. Maybe you find a new spiritual mentor to follow, or you find a new spiritual thing to study and you jump into that. Or with the 4th house, maybe you do move. Maybe you find a new home. Maybe you have a new cycle within your home. So that could just be like, I don't know, the kids both have their own rooms now. Or, you finally are able to decorate a certain area of your home you've always wanted to. It can be that. So we're looking at changes for Leos that affect your career and your reputation and really stimulate your desire to have your reputation be what you want it to be. And maybe something that sort of all of a sudden happens that requires a lot of energy that affects your reputation in positive or a negative way. It can go either way. So for some, it can be your job. And it's like there's pressure, a lot of pressure at work and a lot of tension and a lot that has to be done, and it's maybe overwhelming on this day around the 15th. But for others, again, it can just be the change in your home, or it can just be the change to your belief systems. Although, if it's probably not going to be the hugest change to belief systems, because that's going to happen when we see Uranus aspect your 9th house planet, so wherever Mars is in your actual chart. It's more like a new cycle of what you're studying or what you're believing on your spiritual path, and a new cycle either with your home or with your relationship with your family. So that is what I have for Leos, and we're going to go on now to the next sign, which is our Virgos. Okay. So for Virgos, let's get you on there we go. For Virgos, we have this happening in your 9th house of the meaning of life, of spirituality, of travel, foreign languages, foreign cultures, the law, and publishing. So there can be a new cycle in terms of what you're learning that starts in mid-July. There could be a sudden realization about something you're learning that's like an eye-opening experience. Or you could just have like a little minor spiritual awakening, like a little moment of like, whoa. So I would say for Virgos, pay attention to what's happening around the 15th if you're trying to get insights on some kind of spiritual thing. Because that is going to be highlighted here. And then we also are going to consider what does Mars rule in your chart. So Mars rules your 8th house, and it also rules your 3rd house. So Virgos are going to be ones that this conjunction probably isn't going to be a really big deal unless, for example, what degree is your rising sign? Because if your rising sign is like 20 to 30, it would actually be 29. A Virgo, then that's beautiful. If it's 20 to 29 degrees of Virgo, well, then we can expect something a little more potent for you, because that's going to be really close to your rising sign. If your rising sign is 26, I would expect some kind of eye-opening moment where it's like, oh my God. Now that eye-opening moment might be a sudden change to something related to your 3rd house. So this could be a sudden change to your sibling, right? This could be a sudden change to a roommate or a neighbor, someone in your neighborhood or something in your neighborhood. Sometimes you could move during this time or decide to move or find a new place if you're trying to move. It's not the strongest aspect for that, but it could be, especially if you find out something about someone you live nearby that you didn't know before, that has to do with something that feels unsafe, or I don't want to say your neighborhood's not going to be safe, but it could be something that, because Mars rules like annoying things. Mars rules things that are a pain in the ass and they piss you off. So you could find something out about your neighborhood that pisses you off, or that someone else is being a pain in the ass, or they're pissing you off, or there's something nearby that's like, not something you want to be involved in, and so you want to move. Other Virgos could find that the 8th house rules, like your debt, your taxes, your investments, and money that's tied up with other people. There could be a change to that, which it means if you are a Virgo who receives money from a partner or from someone else in your life, that is what this is. There's a change to that affects your life. Now, it could be positive or negative. You could get a sudden inheritance, or you could get a sudden gift of money that you weren't expecting. You could get a sudden payout from a job that you weren't expecting. That's a possibility, although I wouldn't count on it, because we don't know whether Uranus is going to be a sudden good thing or a sudden challenge. Maybe there's a sudden challenge that affects, your neighborhood. It affects where you're going. It affects the people you're around in your regular day-to-day life. And I don't know what it would be, but it's like there might be a disconnection to something that you normally do on a regular basis, or a place you normally frequent, somewhere you normally spend money. And I don't know, there could be a sudden debit, although that doesn't feel as strong. But it's almost like there's a sudden unexpected debit out of your account and you're like, nope, we're going somewhere else. Or there's just a sudden realization about something really meaningful that makes you either have more money or have less money, or just want to change something about your life, your body, your direction you're heading. Because maybe you realize something about the path you're on is not as meaningful. But with Jupiter in the 10th, it's like there's opportunities here at some point during this transit to grow in your career and in your job and what you want to be doing. So maybe this Mars-Uranus is a sudden change that you are just like, enough is enough, I'm changing this. Right? So there can be some of that energy too, where the tension is around sometimes 9th house stuff is like, I believed X, Y, and Z was going to look a certain way. And when it happened, it wasn't. And then now I'm going to go do this instead. I thought this job was going to pay me X amount, but they didn't. I thought this YouTube channel was going to grow and it didn't. Or, something else where you're like, sometimes those sudden changes to that 9th house are like reconciling our beliefs. And it's not always fun. I'm sorry, 9th house transits, I don't like them, because they're usually us realizing that something we thought was the way it was isn't. So some Virgos may have this going on. Let me know, Virgos, if that resonates. And let's go ahead and go on to our next sign, which is going to be Libras. All right. Libras, we have Mars-Uranus in the 8th house. So if you're someone who worries too much, unless you have a personal planet at 26 degrees of Taurus, this probably is not going to be the worst thing ever. It's really hard to say because I would have to look at your whole chart for every person. But we have, Aries ruling the 7th house, and we have Scorpio ruling the 2nd house of money. So, so sometimes when your money ruler is in the 8th house, maybe some of you Libra make a payoff to your debt if you have debt, or you pay a old tax thing that's overdue or was scheduled for this time, or maybe you normally pay taxes, but this time it's more because you made more. So there's a sudden debit out of your account. For the 2nd ruler in the 8th, you could loan someone money, especially Libras who are if you're the breadwinner. But it could also be your partner who's having this transit. This transit could actually be talking about your partner. especially if you're married or you're in a long-term relationship, because your partner is in the 8th house. You know, your partner is Mars. So they're here and something changes to them. Now, that can be a lot of things. So that can be good or bad, but a change that happens to your partner's money. Maybe they get a raise, or they lose their job, and you have to pay for everything. Or maybe something else happens where you guys are consciously choosing to start a new cycle related to your finances together. That's probably the most likely. Libras could also be giving somebody some stuff. Maybe you have a friend and you give them all your old clothes. Maybe you have something else that maybe you give someone some furniture. You could give anything to anyone during this transit, and that can just be it. It's like your money or your things going to someone close to you, or going to taxes or debt or something. Now, don't get all scared. I mean, if there's no chance that you could owe on taxes, it's not going to be that. So you have to think about which of the things I'm talking about are active in your life right now. So another thing to consider here for Libras is the 5th house of creativity. Children is also being sped up by Mars. So at the same time, it's like some Libras might just want to be more self-employed at the moment. They're like paying for the business license and stuff to get all situated. It does feel like maybe Libras are making some kind of investment. Now, that investment might be financial, but it might also be an investment of time into helping someone else who is coming to you with their crisis. That's another real possibility, because planets in the 8th house are what like other people come to you with. So someone's coming to you having a nervous breakdown and you're helping them. Someone's coming to you being really, really stressed out all the time and you're going to help them through it. That is another way this could show up, is you're going to invest in something during this transit. So if financial stuff is fine and steady and there's nothing to consider on that side of things, it might be a time where you can consider, what am I investing in other people and how much do I want to invest? Because with Mars-Uranus, it might be like your best friend's dog dies and they call you, right? Or something else kind of unexpected that brings crisis to your doorstep. And I want to give that example because we think crisis and we think of something really, really horrible. And this can be a minor one, right? Because Mars-Uranus happens like roughly, this is not exact, but roughly every 2 years. And you don't have a major crisis every 2 years, right? Most people don't. If you're not in a relationship, then this could actually be getting closer to someone. Mars-Uranus can be like a sudden, I wouldn't say it's enjoyable necessarily. I mean, it doesn't feel enjoyable. It doesn't feel like, we just got to know each other so well. It might be more like your partner gets more pissed off than you've ever seen them be. Or it could also be possible, though, that if you're single and you're a Libra, that during this time you meet someone. And that would be one of the most possible positive ways that could show up, is it's a new cycle in relationship. It's a new cycle in a relationship that relates to intimacy. And sometimes intimacy is seeing the worst in someone, or them seeing the worst in you. Maybe you get pissed off and your partner sees it and you're more mad than you've ever been, or vice versa. Okay, so lots of relational dynamics and possible financial stuff going on for our Libras. And so we're going to go into our next sign now, which is going to be Scorpios. So for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, we have Mars rules you, and it's in the 7th house with Uranus. So this is going to be a stronger transit for you guys because it's angular and it's the ruler of your chart. So you might have a conflict in your relationship. Mars going through the 7th can create little spats or fights or disagreements and stuff with your partner. It doesn't have to be a relationship end. It can just be a time where you guys are either fighting with each other more, or your partner's bickering with you more, or they're bitching at you more, or they're nagging you about stuff, or you have to nag them because they just won't take out the damn garbage or something like that. But this is a 2-year cycle. So it's like, this is the month or so, not really month, but the period of time where you're going to have more challenges or more tension. Now, for some people who like to get spicy with their partner, this might actually have been more fun. So think about how it's felt for you so far in July coming into this. Is there more tension in your relationship that's difficult, or are you more like fighting with your partner in a way that's like cute and they're being kind of sexy about it? You know what I mean? Like, is it like in a way you like, and are you guys having more passion and stuff? If yes, then maybe this Mars-Uranus will be like something fun. If not, it could be, because Uranus is like an on and off switch and Mars rules you. So it could be very likely for Scorpios, especially if you're like in a relationship that you think might change, or if you are not in a relationship, that this could change it. If you're not in a relationship, you could start dating someone new, or you could start getting serious about someone who maybe you've been with, just haven't been serious. I would not predict in a general reading that a relationship will actually end, but it does feel like it is a new cycle in your life relating to getting your needs met in relationship. And considering Mars and Taurus takes a long time to get going, it makes me feel like, maybe there's something that hasn't been happening in relationship that needs to get addressed, and it's been dragging out, and now there's finally some kind of break or some kind of change. Or it almost feels like for some Scorpios, this might bring some sense of relief, even if it's something challenging that was unexpected. So now let's consider that Aries rules the 6th house of your schedule and your work, and that going into the 7th house. So most likely, though, I would say some Scorpio risings could have a change to their work schedule, a change to, it could be a change to health, but more likely a change to your work schedule or what you're doing every day. Or you could have some kind of problem come up around the 15th that you just have to drop everything and solve, like, a car thing, or like something where like your phone gets shut off, you have to call the company and get it turned back on. And I'm not even saying you won't pay your bill. I'm saying like just something that is a problem you have to put all your energy into solving, and that may or may not involve a partner. But either way, I think the Mars-Uranus cycle for Scorpios is going to be more of a new beginning in your life related to your approach to relationships. So to work with this transit, you can just kind of be a little bit more intentional about, what do you want this cycle of relationships to involve? And are you being nourished by your relationship? Are you nourishing them? Are they nourishing you? Is it providing you the security and the stability that you need? Or is it more destabilizing and you need to work on that? So that's what I have for Scorpios for this one. Let's go on to our next sign, which is going to be the Sagittariuses. All right. Okay, so going on now to Sag, Sun, Moon, and Rising. For Sagittarius, the Mars-Uranus conjunction is in your 6th house of your daily schedule and your work. So there could be a change to your work schedule. Sometimes, though, the 6th house can be just like the everyday problems we have to deal with, like our bills or our, like our cleaning the house, or like bills, cleaning the house, stuff that you have to do that's like chores that you have to take care of. So on the 15th, maybe you have more chores. Maybe you spend the whole day cleaning out all your closets and stuff, right? It could be something like that where the energy is directed towards 6th house stuff, which is like doing the dishes or problem solving. in some way. Now, let's see what houses Mars rules for you. We have the 12th house with Scorpio, and we have the 5th house with Aries. So the 5th house is the fun house. So to have, even though it's in the 6th house and that's not quite as lovely, to have the fun house have a change to it, that kind of makes me feel like this might be a good time to start a new habit or a new hobby. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe you start a new hobby around the 15th. It's the beginning of a new cycle in 5th house areas, which is going to be children, self-employment, creativity, pleasure. So what do you do for fun, Sagittarius? Maybe on the 15th, you're like, I'm just going to go after work and do something I've never done before. Maybe it's more about exploring and just you get a sudden need to go do something different. Now with the 12th house being involved, this makes it a little bit more psychological in nature. So how can that be? Well, maybe you realize how you've been self-sabotaging in your daily routine or your work. Maybe you realize self-sabotaging tendencies that relate to your 5th house of pleasure. Maybe you cut out maybe you cut out sugar from your diet. Maybe you cut out something else you've been doing as some kind of coping mechanism that you finally see the light and you realize this is really hurting me. I got to knock it off. It doesn't have to be sugar. It could be anything you've been doing for pleasure that's not serving you. It could be you're watching too many movies. It could be you realize you're on YouTube all day long or you're on your phone all day long and it's like, this is numbing my brain and not getting me to my goals, right? It doesn't have to be like you get sober on this day, but it can be the realization or the epiphany or the sudden end to certain habits that you've been using to check out a little bit. That's really highly likely. Now, for Sagittarius who have kids, maybe there's some awareness around your relationship with your child that you realize, oh, I'm hurting them. Like, for example, let's say your kid's like 3 or 4 and you pick them up all the time and you realize like, now's the time I need to stop picking them up all the time, right? So it doesn't have to be, this transit's probably not going to be life-changingly huge because it's in the 6th house, which isn't very powerful. It's the 12th house ruler, which also isn't very powerful, and the 5th house, which is medium power. So for Sages, I'm not predicting some life-changing thing. There can be something going on with health that's unexpected, like you realize something about your health. I don't really want to make negative predictions, but it's like, oh, your knee starts acting up, or like, something like that, where it's like, oh, I got to deal with this problem now. Although that's not going to be everyone. But you could also find that, worst case scenario, maybe there was a hidden enemy at your workplace that now you see, and it's revealed to you. Worst case scenario, your hours get cut at work. Worst case scenario, you have to stop doing something like eating sugar and you really don't want to, or you just have to stop eating greasy food or something, and it's not an enjoyable change. Best case scenario, you went to a therapist and you realized how you're creating, or you've been, maybe, how do I put it? You see how there's some challenge in your life that you've been actually participating in. And maybe you couldn't see what you were doing before that was actually participating in it. So I do think there's the potential for this transit to make a change to your routine, to your schedule, to your habits that ultimately could be positive, but it's possible that it might have to do with letting go of something that you like, or, changing something that you really like. For others, the highest possibility here is maybe something changes to your employment or your self-employment. Now, that's only going to be positive if that's the change you wanted. So that's the part that is hard to see. But that is what I have for Sagittarius. Let's go on now to our next sign, which is going to be our Capricorns. Okay. Let's see now, Capricorns. We're going to reset the timer. And for Capricorns, this Mars-Uranus conjunction is happening in your 5th house of creativity, self-employment, pleasure. It's the fun house. If you're single and you want to date someone, this would be a really good time to get out there, because it's like this spontaneous, sudden passion, especially if you, when it comes to love, you want something that's more on the adventurous side. Because when I think of Mars-Uranus, it's like, when it comes to love, I mean, it can be shocking things that are difficult, but it's almost like, especially with Mars, with love, it's like the chase, and like, I don't know, like driving a race car with your partner, and like, I don't know, like racing down the street and having that rush, Now, apply that to what makes sense to your life, because you're like, you might have no desire for any of those things, and that's fine. But Mars going through the 5th house will stimulate your desire for pleasure, and Uranus will make there be something sudden about this. Okay, so this could actually just be more on the internal side of having a sudden desire for something that is pleasing to you. Whether that is good for you or bad for you, I can't tell. But one thing to consider is the degree. If the degree of your rising sign in Capricorn is close to 26, so I'm going to say like 20 to 29, this will hit you a lot more strongly, because it's like this internal tension and desire for pleasure might lead to some kind of change to your body or to your life direction. I don't know. It's like you meet someone and you've just fallen in love, but it's just lust, Now, if you're in a relationship, that might not be what it is. Let's look at, though, what houses Mars rules in your chart to get more clarification. We have the 4th house and the 11th house. So I'm saying this is a medium strong transit for Capricorns, because the 4th house is angular. So there could be simply just a change to your home. You could move. You could have a new roommate. Roommate moves out. Roommate moves in. You could have something change to your mom or your dad's life. I don't mean their life. I mean in their life, like a big change, like they retire or they have some other change or they move. You could have a new family member. That's a possibility, but most of you are going to know if that's on schedule in a week, like I guess this could be, I wouldn't say Mars would be like a surprise pregnancy. If anything, it would be more like a kid moving out suddenly, or more. It does read, Mars-Uranus reads more like an ending usually. Although it's a new beginning of a new cycle in your home and with your 11th house of friends or the people that you hang out with. So if you're in a situation where you just moved and you now need to make new friends, this makes total sense. It's also possible too, because your 11th house ruler is in the 5th, that you could find your friendships or the people you meet to just be more fun. Maybe you suddenly meet some new people and they're really fun. Maybe this is a time for Capricorns to join some kind of group and have at least one of those people is okay. So for some, if you're single, someone in your friend group could become your new lover. It could be that. But if that's not the case, then it could just be that you meet some friends, or you meet some people who you really like, or you've really hit it off with, or you have a sudden connection with that's really intense and almost provocative in some way. So that can be positive or negative, right? It could be someone in your friend group starts a fight with you and you have to deal with it on this day. It could also be more fun because Mars is in the fun house of like, I just met these people and now we went to this thing and it was the best time ever, right? So this can be just a day that's like really charged with a lot of energy. Now, the 11th house can also rule your hopes and dreams, and having it be in the 5th house makes me feel like the 15th is the beginning of a new cycle of maybe starting something related to your hopes and dreams, your home, or your self-employment. So for Capricorns, this might be a good time to really consider some intentions when it comes to what you want in this next couple years related to your home life, your family life, or your friendships. Overall, it does feel mostly positive. Like even if there's a disconnection here, then it could be mostly positive. Hold on. Hold on a second. Okay. Back to the readings. We have our next sign is going to be Aquarius. So okay, so for Aquarius, let me get the chart up. Okay, so I think we're ready. Start. For Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, we have the Mars-Uranus conjunction happening in your 4th house of home. So the immediate possibility would be moving. If that's not on schedule or if that doesn't make sense in your life, then it can be a change to your home that is not moving. Like you want to rearrange your furniture, especially with Mars. Like with Mars going through the 4th house, oftentimes you're going to want to do more things in your home. You're going to like want to do more. You're going to want to, I don't know, like sometimes people want to rearrange their furniture, like literally. Sometimes they're outside and they're like jumping into their pool. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're doing other stuff that's like really active in their house. Sometimes they got a gym in their house and they're working out in their house. So the Mars-Uranus conjunction in the 4th for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising can just be being more busy at home and being more active at home. But with Uranus, it adds an element of urgency or an element of unexpectedness. Like your pool unexpectedly has a leaking. Pools don't leak. What am I talking about? It gets clogged or something, right? And you have to call someone right away to get it fixed, or like something else like that, where it's like, this has to happen now. Now it could also be something you're planning on doing. Like you're planning on renovating that day. You're planning on moving furniture that day. And it's just a day where there's a lot of energy and it's got to be done by the end of the day, because that's when the U-Haul has to go back or something like that. So it can be something, it can literally be moving. But let's look at the house's Mars rule to clarify what other kinds of changes can be happening for you from this conjunction. First of all, since Mars rules your 10th house, around the mid-July, this can be a new beginning in you for a new cycle of work, especially for those who work from home. But for every single Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, there's a new cycle related to your role in life that's beginning. And you don't always notice the beginning on that exact day. So sometimes it's something we have to look back after a few months and we can see, oh yeah, that's when I started doing this kind of work in my job, or that's when I started learning that new skill. And then later, months later, or even years later, that new skill develops into something else from the beginning of that cycle. It can also be a beginning of a cycle related to your 3rd house of siblings, your car, or again, we have neighborhood. So neighborhood and moving, definitely a strong possibility. But it could also be a change to like who lives with you, or, you know, someone moving out, or you get a new car, or you sell your car, or there's something wrong with your car that you have to fix immediately. Or there can be a connection or a disconnection with a sibling. It could be, one of your sibling calls you on this day and tells you, what's going on with mom and dad, or something like that. It can be something that small. But at the same time, especially considering that Mars does rule your 10th house, and that 10th house being your role in life, it's likely that even if it is something small like that, that maybe there's also going to be something bigger happening that is also career related. Although because it's the beginning of the cycle, sometimes we don't recognize it exactly at that time. So let me see what else. Yeah, it just feels like lots of activity in the home at this time. Lots of activity with siblings. The third house can also be your neighborhood. So it could be a change to your neighborhood. Like there's a new store you start going to, or you stop going to on a certain drive to work. You stop doing that, you start going on a different one. And that can be because you moved, or because maybe there's construction on a certain place in the road, right? So it can really be like changes to your environment that are unexpected and cause a little more energy to navigate around. I would also say maybe having conversations about family or your family of origin, or your role in a company may be happening around the 15th. And it's possible that there could be, again, a change to your role in life. Now, it's not always that big, right? It could be at your job, you didn't answer the phone before, now you're answering the phone, right? So a change to your role doesn't always have to be like huge life-changing stuff. But I do see a lot of changes in the home happening for Aquarius around the 15th of July. So as always, you guys let me know how it resonates, and we're going to go to our next sign, which is going to be our Pisces. So for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising, we have our Mars-Uranus conjunction happening in the third house. So the third house can be siblings. It can be your neighborhood. It's usually your local environment, like the store you stop by on the way home, the roads you drive to work, the kind of when you're out running errands, where you go, that sort of place, those places, that's your third house. So Mars-Uranus here, it could be something as simple as construction near your house on this day or these few days. It could be something related to your car that's changing, that's unexpected, that's you're finding out about on this day. It can also be, let's see what else we got. We got the second ruler, and we got Scorpio's in the ninth ruler. Okay, so there can also be a change to your belief system. You could start studying something. That's highlighted. Studying something new, or have a real breakthrough with something you're studying, where you have this aha moment that's like a big epiphany. And you kind of get what you wanted, especially if you are a Pisces who has been doing some kind of more rigorous course of study lately. Maybe you've been studying astrology or something else, and it's like that can happen. Now, the ninth house also rules our spiritual path and the meaning of life for us. So sometimes with Uranus here, this can be a little mini awakening moment. Now, sometimes those awakenings are easy. Sometimes they are hard. With Mars, it's going to tend toward a challenge. So it's almost like challenging information, right? Like, oh, I thought it was going to be like this when I learned how to channel, but actually it's like this. And it's like, oh, now I have to figure out what I believe, because it's different. I got challenging information to what I already had believed. There's that. Or sometimes you're just sharing what you know about the spiritual path, or about God, or about, your path to spiritual awakening. But again, it could be more personal, where you're just like, you say a prayer and the prayer comes true, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't think that would happen. Or, something else along those lines. Now let's talk about what it means to have the second ruler in the third with Uranus, because Mars rules your money. So what would that be? Well, a sudden change to your money. Now that could be income or outgo, right? It could be income or outgo. Maybe you pay for something for your car on this day, and that could be something you already knew was going to happen, or you were going to need. And this is just the day that you make some kind of a payment. So that's for, if you don't have a car and you're not buying one, that's not for you. But let's say you're like me and you know you have your air conditioners going out and it's summer and you need to buy a new one, then, or you need to pay for that service, then this might be a day where you get your car service, your money, a sum of money, a sudden one-time payment of money goes into that third house of car. You could also have a sudden expense, and it could be like, the thing is, it could be with the second ruler, it does kind of feel like it's a strong possibility that there is either a payment made or a payment received on this day. Now, is it a big payment? Is it a small payment? That kind of depends on whether you plan on buying something big, right? Like if you've been saving up to buy like a new computer, maybe this is the day where you go to the store and you buy it. Or you've been saving up to buy like something new for your kitchen or for your land, if you have land or something, well, maybe this is the day you buy that thing. But if your roommate or your sibling owes you money, well, maybe this is the day they pay you back for that. Or it can be anything. But with the second ruler and the third, you also could possibly buy like a book or a course on this day, on the 15th. That's like a bigger purchase that, especially if there's a potential of joining a course that's like, you get in for a long period of time. It's just maybe an impulse buy. You know, maybe there's an impulse buy it's more significant because it'll stand out in a whole 2-year period. You're like, yep, that's the thing I impulse bought. So I would say watch out if you normally, like if you know you can't afford to be impulse buying on stuff, Pisces, I would say watch out around the 15th that you don't feel like you have to buy something. But at the same, just be that you were already going to buy this anyway and you needed to do it. So there's nothing in the chart really that says you shouldn't buy something on this day. It's more like Uranus sometimes will make us feel like it's an emergency when it's not. So that's the thing to watch out for. Is it an emergency or does it feel like an emergency? Whatever is happening for Pisces on the 15th, it could be that you get stuck in traffic and it feels like an emergency to get out of traffic. Or, you know, you have to, I don't know, maybe your car won't start. It feels like an emergency. You got to get a new battery. But it's important, but it's not like, that's not like a real emergency. Like you're not going to die if you wait a day for that, right? So this would be the challenge of Uranus in the third especially, is like feeling like it's an emergency to get where we need to go, or feeling like it's an emergency to say something we need to say. And sometimes with Mars, Uranus in the third house, this would be someone in your environment, like you are just walking down the street and some loser starts picking a fight with you. So watch out for that as well. I don't think you need to do anything about that. Just know that it might be happening. And if it does, it's just one day out of the year. Try not to escalate it, I would say. But usually Pisces are good about that. So either way, Uranus can be that on and off switch for your finances, right? That's like you're getting money, you're spending money. There's something about that experience that is, that is sudden, and again, it can feel like an emergency. And so I think this would be something I might just want to tell everyone, because I kind of want all of the signs to know about how to really kind of work with Uranus, because I've noticed that Uranus transits are the times in life where I feel like I have to do something right now, but it's like it's the same situation that it was yesterday and the day before and the month before. And sometimes when we get urgent about something, there can be a positive side to that, where it's like, you know, we're creating some urgency that's good for us, because like these are things that we care about and that we want and need to be urgent about. But there's also the other side of like feeling like the things that are in your life that have always been this way are suddenly no longer tolerable. So this is where Uranus can teach us, right? Uranus can teach us what we don't like, because sometimes we tell ourselves something's fine when it's not, right? Sometimes we tell ourselves that something's fine when we kind of know we don't have the ability to get out of that situation right this second, or we don't want to deal with the thing, or it's too overwhelming to go through it all, or it's such a big change. So sometimes Uranus transits will really make that thing that we've been ignoring, especially if it's something we can't stand or something that makes us feel limited, because Uranus rules freedom. So sometimes our desire for freedom is just going to well up from within, and we're just going to feel like we have to get out of this right now. But what Uranus does not do during its transits is it does not give us the way out. And so it makes us want to jump out of something that we maybe have been tolerating and just can no longer tolerate, and we can't stand it anymore. But it doesn't always give us the thing to jump into. So sometimes the best thing to do during a Uranus transit is rather than doing what I'm sure I've done a million times, and like throwing a wrench in something and just being like, I'm out, goodbye. Sometimes it is best to kind of sit with it and see how you feel once the transit's over. Once it has given you that feeling, if you want to say it like that, right? Once it has sort of shown you what you don't want to tolerate anymore. And then after the transit's over, deciding, okay, how do we want to deal with this thing that we are very clear now that we can no longer avoid, how much it feels limiting and restricting. So Uranus calls us to freedom and to, being our own self. So you may find that the areas of life that Uranus rules for you, or the house Uranus is in, your Taurus house, are the areas of life where you're like, I feel shackled to this. I feel chained to this thing. I feel confined by this thing. I feel limited by this thing. And maybe there's a readiness to release those limitations. But just because you're ready to not have to take shit from your boss no more, which that doesn't apply to me right now. I'm very happy. But just because you feel that way doesn't mean that immediate action is going to be the solution. Sometimes just kind of making a mental note of where you feel most restricted, and then starting on the path to creating the next thing that you can jump into is the best, most mature way to deal with the Uranus transit. So that's what I have for the Mars-Uranus. And also, today is a special day because I have a new course out. It is actually a course on the spiritual path in the 9th house. So I went in this course and I went all through the 9th house and what it means, what planets in the 9th house mean, and basically teach you how to understand the planet in your chart that represents your 9th house and what that means about the energy and the rhythm and the pacing of your spiritual path, as well as what kind of themes you might encounter based on the transits, or not the transits, the aspects. So if that sounds like something you want, you can click the link in the chat or the description to find out more and sign up. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you have a very, very nice rest of your weekend, and I hope this Mars-Uranus conjunction is as calm and enlightening for you as it possibly can be. All right, guys, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.